Assalamu alaikum. Asad مساءكم جميعا, and welcome to our today's workshop, which is going to be about how to write argumentative and persuasive essays. The workshop is going to be presented by Mr. Joseph Valerio. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for presenting this workshop. So the floor is yours. You may start now.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Dr. Basim. By the way, before we begin, I think it's very important to talk about the AWC team that we have constructed, that we have built together. And of course, this past year, I have been very happy to be part of this team that Dr. Basim is the leader of. And I'd like to thank him for his leadership. And not to mention, it's very important that, first of all, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to the women's campus and our colleagues on the women's campus. And also to tell them that I attended the symposium last 2 years ago, I believe. And I think the international conference was last year, and I would like to say that I attended many of the workshops of our women colleagues, and I really have to tell you that they were extremely effective, and I compliment their work and how dedicated they are. And I knew that we had a great team on the men's campus, but there's also a fantastic team on the women's campus, and congratulations to your hard work, of course. And I'm sure that this is due to the leadership on due to Dr. Basim, and of course the leadership on the women's campus. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Okay, let's begin with the workshop. As you know, this is an argumentative and persuasive workshop. Many people feel that there is no difference between argumentative and persuasive essays. Well, actually, there is a slight difference. It's not much. They are very similar. But the only difference really is, of course, first of all, let's explain why. As you know, you probably already know this, that both essays, the argumentative and persuasive essays, are two types of essays, sorry, that express a point of view. So there I have it in the second slide. I'm sorry, the second slide is first, we need to ask, what is the difference between the two? I won't spend too much time on the difference because they are very, very similar. In both argumentative and persuasive essays, the author puts forward a point of view, right? Obviously, the reason why an author puts forward a point of view is because he or she wants the reader to agree with him or with her. There is no point to writing the essay unless there was a purpose of convincing someone of a point of view. Okay? And that is obviously something that you already know. The difference in the two approaches, we will discuss very quickly because for time constraints, I'm going to focus on the argumentative essay. Why? Why I'd like to focus on that? Because the argumentative essay focuses on facts, or evidence, which is a lot more tangible, a lot more easily proven than an essay that's written in a persuasive style. The persuasive style, of course, relies on emotion, okay? And that will be in the next slide here. the author will use a more passionate or emotional approach. Now, you can think very clearly of what type of walks of life or what type of professions involve a persuasive type of speech, persuasive type of writing or essay. Obviously, you can think of politicians, people of a certain faith, trying to convince you with their words of that you should do something or that you should agree with them, okay? So I think in that case, it's quite clear that a persuasive essay will be something not based on facts, usually not based on evidence, but based on, for example, how someone feels about someone or how someone feels about something, okay? For example, if someone says, please vote for me because I'm a nice guy, please vote for me because I will make you happy, please vote for me because I will reward you when I am elected. Obviously, there is nothing based on facts or evidence. I have not told you what is the real reason why you should vote for me. Just telling people that they will be rewarded, gratified, receive gratification, they will be rewarded. The person says that he is a good person, or she says that she deserves to be voted because she will help you, really provides no facts or hard evidence as to what is a good reason why someone should be voted into office for whatever office it is. For example, back home we have positions as district representatives, aldermans, and then of course higher positions such as parliament members in Canada. In the United States we have House of Representatives, okay? So again, that kind of persuasive essay bears no hard facts, no hard evidence. Now, if I were to present statistics and I would like you to vote for me, please vote for me because the other person running for office, for the same office, for example, parliament position, is not doing well in terms of crime statistics. Look at the crime statistics and you will see that he is not performing well when it comes to crime. He is not hard on crime. He is not punishing people who commit crime. Therefore, I have used statistics to show hard facts or evidence, and that would be more argumentative than persuasive. So I think it's quite clear that saying I'm a nice guy, I will make you happy, as opposed to the argumentative approach that I'm going to use statistics and facts to prove that you should vote for me because while I was a lawyer, for example, I have statistics. For example, a lot of these politicians are often lawyers. They have not held office before. Well, they'll use their statistics as lawyers to go vis-a-vis or against the statistics of politicians who have not done well in certain categories, for example, crime. Okay, so that's basically the difference between the emotional argument of persuasive essay and the argumentative approach, which is based more on facts, evidence, statistics, okay? Now, this slide here, By the way, I hope you are able to see my slides clearly. Maybe you can make a note here. Someone could tell me if you can. Okay, I don't know if you can show me a sign that you can see the screen. Dr. Basim had said at the beginning, we tested the microphones and the speakers, and I think he told me that he can see the screen, so I think it's all right. Right, I'm just looking here to see this. Okay, all right. So due to time constraints, I mean, there are going to be questions at the end, of course. So we're going to focus on the argumentative approach, which is based on hard facts and a lot easier to understand and to use, whereas the persuasive is a little more murky. What I mean is murky, confusing, because it's often based on just sheer emotion, right? Okay. What is the layout or the form of an argumentative essay? Well, as in most essays, they're usually 4 to 5 to 6 paragraphs, 5 to 6 paragraphs. Again, you have an introductory paragraph where you state your position. For example, I think uniforms should be used in elementary schools and high schools. And then you have 2 body paragraphs or 3 body paragraphs that show your position with many examples and supporting sentences. Also in the introductory paragraph, you may use supporting sentence plus examples as you further explain in the body paragraphs. The concluding paragraph is basically repeating your main points as stated in the introductory paragraph and the body paragraphs, the points you've made, but in different words. Hopefully, you're going to use more effective words that are trying to convince the reader of your position. Of course, the ideas are the same, just different words so that you're not exactly repeating yourself completely. Okay. For this workshop, I will concentrate on the 5-paragraph approach, which obviously includes the introductory paragraph, the 3 body paragraphs, and the concluding paragraph. All right. Here it is. As I stated before, an argumentative essay, as many types of other essays, especially the ones that our students will be writing for this writing exam, either October 6 or October 7. And I've already informed them of the style and approach that they should use. Okay. Again, introduction, first body paragraph, second body paragraph, third, and the conclusion. And conclusion, again, is repeating your position and repeating the points that you've made in the introductory paragraph, as long as you also reinforce those ideas as you did in the body paragraphs. All right. When planning an argumentative essay, the author should organize a thought structure. What does that mean? Well, I'm sure you know what it means already. It means, how am I going to talk about a point? How am I going to talk about my position? As I said at the beginning, we'll use the same example, uniforms. I think uniforms, students in elementary schools and high schools should wear uniforms. Okay. That's my position. My supporting sentence will be, why do I feel that way? Well, my supporting sentence will be, I think it establishes a feeling of camaraderie. It establishes a feeling of school spirit. It establishes a feeling that everyone is part of one big family. Okay? That will be my supporting sentence. Next, you can add on another supporting sentence, a second one, or go to examples, 2 or 3 examples from your own personal experience. Now, when I say personal experience, they can be your friend's experience that you heard of, and if it's valid, you can give it as an experience. So, for example, I remember when my brother was going to elementary school, he felt very good about wearing a uniform because it seemed as though everybody was part of one big unit, one big team. So he felt very secure. So there is an example that reinforces the supporting sentence and, of course, my position in the thesis sentence. Okay, let's go to the mind map, and we'll use another example. Let's say I was talking about corporate communication, corporate being business communication. So how do I begin? Well, I suppose I'll do research and even from my own experience, whatever I have in business, if I had a lemonade stand when I was a child, that's still part of business. It's very rudimentary, it's very basic, but it's still, that's what business is. When you're selling, you have a product and you sell it to the public. So these are some sub-satellites, as they say, around the corporate corporation. You have public relations. So you have customers. How do you deal with them? You have to advertise your product. You have social media now, which is an essential part of every business, it seems. How are you going to advertise and speak to your customers via social media? You know, social media such as Instagram, Twitter, etc. Corporate identity, I guess, is something that we should use at the beginning. What exactly is our product? What do we stand for? What is the brand for? Let's say we're selling electric cars. For example, in the case of Elon Musk, what does he want to do with his brand name? He wants to create a car that does not run on fuel, gasoline. It runs on battery cells, electric, and you have to recharge it. That's his brand name. Why does he want to do that? Well, he could use as an important advertising tool that it is a green energy and it is not harmful to the environment. That will be part of the marketing, of course. In the marketing, you can have announcements or commercials, 30-second, 1 minute, 60-second commercials, 30-second commercials that show that your electric car is not harmful to the environment. Also that it's easy to use. For example, when you're driving downtown, easy to park as well. Parking is very important in big cities. Okay, now crisis communication. You know, not all of these are going to be in for every mind map, but in this case, we've included crisis communication. What happens when there's a problem with the product, or what happens when there's a problem with dealing with the public? The public is angry about the product. How do you smooth over the situation? How do you communicate with them and assure them that the product is still good? Okay, so that would be the crisis situation. Internal, of course, is how do you deal with your own employees? How the colleagues deal with each other? Do they respect each other? Do they communicate well with each other? Emails, social media, how do they communicate with each other? Is it effective? If it's not effective, well, then you would have to have a meeting, either online, conference meeting, or in person. Hopefully, after the COVID-19 or the coronavirus is gone, you can have a in-person meeting. Okay, this is just an example of corporate communication. So this would be about an essay, argumentative essay about business communication and the different facets, different aspects of it. Okay. Right, and then investor relations, well, that is an external part of the communication. Why is it external? That doesn't focus on the product really directly. It focuses on how are the investors going to money to the company so that it expands. Of course, in a way, it has something to do with the product, because if we continue to develop the product, more investors will give money or invest in the product. And I mentioned public relations. Of course, that's a lot to do with customer service. Okay. Right. So again, in the mind map seen in the previous slide, we can see the topic, and it will help us develop sentences. Right? So let's compare the first argumentative essay about wearing uniforms in elementary schools and secondary schools. I think students should wear uniforms in elementary schools because it creates a team spirit or a team atmosphere. As compared to corporate communication, as we try to develop corporate communication, we should be very much aware of the following facts. And then we'll talk about marketing, the identity of our company. For example, what are we selling? What do we want to show to people why our product is worth buying? How we deal with our employees. So corporate communication will be another essay as compared to wearing uniforms in elementary schools. And the approach there will be our company needs to focus on corporate communication because it will lead to a more cohesive and unified company. And our members will focus on working together towards the same goal. That will be my thesis statement, and then we can support it by saying, when companies work together, we will excel at doing good work, and of course, profits will increase, right? And then you can give examples. For example, Elon Musk with electric cars, and you give his example about that. All right, so I've compared two different types of argumentative essays, topics. one wearing uniforms in schools, and the other one talking about how are you going to establish effective corporate communication within a company. So those are two different essays, but basically they have the same structure and same idea. They start with a thesis statement, takes a position on why you are writing the essay. You want to convince people of that the essay. You support it with a sentence or two sentences that support your main thesis statement or thesis sentence. And then you give examples of people who have succeeded using your approach or your position. Okay, and then you continue, of course, developing the ideas in body paragraphs, and then you conclude in the concluding paragraph with repeating the statements in a different way, perhaps with stronger words, more effective words, okay? But basically using the same idea. Okay. Here I put mind map. I think you're all familiar with a Venn diagram. We learned that in mathematics, but it's used in other disciplines. For example, the arts and literature, the Venn diagram of thought structure. You may use any one you like, as you know, as long as it's from each sphere, as we see here in the corporate communication essay. Each one of them are going to give you one or two sentences that you can use in the introductory and the supporting sentences. They can help you further develop your essay. Okay. Right. The first sentence of the introductory paragraph, the thesis statement. I think everyone is familiar with that. I don't want to pontificate on this, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I've noticed that many of our colleagues from the women's campus have joined us online. Again, at the beginning, I welcomed you warmly. I welcome you again for those who have just joined us. The first sentence of the introductory paragraph, the thesis statement, what is your position? Why are you trying to convince people about your position? Make sure that it is clear and, you know, about what your position is. For example, as I said, I think students in elementary school should wear uniforms. That's clear. Now I'm going to try to convince you with supporting sentences and examples as to why I should convince you that my position is correct or my position is agreeable to you, that I can convince you. And again, as I said at the outset, this is the way a lot of politicians proceed in their arguments, but they don't necessarily use facts all the time. Sometimes they will use statistics and hard evidence, and sometimes they will not, as I said at the outset. Okay. Right. The most important sentence in a writer's essay, as you already know, has to be the thesis statement because it shows your position. So again, I'm going to use another example, the one corporate, establishing, why is it important to establish corporate communication in a company, in a firm? Some people may think it's not important. I do my job, I go in 9 to 5, that's it. I don't need to communicate with anybody. I deal with the customers the way I want to. I don't need the company to tell me that. tell me what way to deal with them. So I'm making a statement that, yes, we need for everybody to be on the same page. That means the same approach, right? Thesis statement. Why? Well, my supporting statement will show that it establishes cohesion and unity among the employees. Therefore, we can work well together towards the same goal. Just like, for example, if I use a sports analogy, as on a football pitch or football field where everyone is working together, the defenders are passing the ball to the midfielders are passing the ball to the forwards and the strikers. If you're not familiar with sports analogy, let me use an assembly line analogy. For example, in a factory, everyone works together. One person packages a product. So let's say the product is a pencil. They will put the pencil, for example, in a case or in a plastic small container or envelope. Then the next person on the assembly line, his or her job will be to pack correctly the number and in order the pencils that have already been enveloped or put in cases, I mean small cases. And then the third one will put them in boxes. So everyone is working together towards the same goal. If there is no communication, as I was saying, corporate communication among those people working, well, then obviously there's going to be a lot of confusion and mistakes. As long as everybody knows what they have to do, they are all working towards the same goal, everything will go smoothly. And that would be my supporting sentence to a thesis statement about corporate communication, why it's important. I think corporate communication is important. Hello? Hello? Okay, I think someone has his or her microphone on. Okay. Please, if you do not wish to communicate with me, please turn your microphones off. Of course, if you want to communicate with me, that's okay. You can turn them on because it does cause background noise, please. So I kindly ask you to turn them off if you're not communicating with me or if you do not wish to communicate with me. Okay. So again, why is the thesis statement so important? Because all sentences, including the ones in the body paragraphs, and of course, you're repeating the ideas in the concluding paragraph, they will all be based on my position. You should not, of course, contradict yourself in an argumentative essay, because then you're obviously defeating the purpose of why you're writing the essay. You're writing the essay because you have a position and you want the reader to agree with you, right? So the more you reinforce your ideas in the body paragraphs, the more you will convince the reader that you are correct, or give the reader the idea that your position is very logical and agreeable. It's an agreeable and a valid position. Okay. Now, the next slide here, as an author continues to write the introductory paragraph, he or she will support his thesis statement with 2 or 3 supporting sentences. Okay, I've already explained this, and quite frankly, dear colleagues, I think you already know this, but I'm just making it clear. This is for lots of types of approaches for other types of essays. So this is pretty well standard in writing an essay, whether it's an argumentative essay or not. As I said, colleagues, I'm not here to pontificate or to pretend that I am an authority on the subject, because I think all of you know this very well. And I remember Dr. Bassem and also our good colleague Ibrahim has often stated to me, remember, Joseph, that when you do make these claims in your workshops, that lots of colleagues already know the approach, and maybe they need to be reminded, maybe not, but we often make sure that we make it clear that we're not there to pontificate or be an authority, but just to share our ideas with you. And you may or may not agree, but one thing for sure, they can be discussed. And a lot of the points I'm making tonight, you already know, but you know, we can share these ideas together and discuss which points you feel can be approached from a different angle and different manner. Okay. I also said that after you write one or two supporting sentences, you can use examples from your daily experience. Well, daily experience from your personal experience in the past as well. Of course, they don't have to be yours personally. They can be some experience that you have witnessed, that one of your family members, one of your friends, someone you know has experienced, and then you talk about it. And that will further reinforce your thesis statement. For example, as I said, talking about uniforms in elementary schools, you are explaining why it causes or develops or creates a family atmosphere or team and unified atmosphere. You'll talk about your brother or your sister when they were in elementary school and they were asked to wear uniforms or obligated to wear uniforms. They were, you know, explaining why they liked it. Of course, you're not going to say that they did not like it, because that would contradict your thesis point. So obviously, you're going to choose experiences, personal experiences, or experiences that you have witnessed that, of course, are in agreement with your main position. Okay? Right. So you're not going to say that your brother and sister was obligated to wear a uniform and they didn't like it. They enjoyed it, and you'll say why they enjoyed it, right? If they did not enjoy it, well, please choose other experiences, other examples to fortify and reinforce your thesis statement. Okay. Exercise on thesis statement. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you, I'm going to be very generous, as I am with my online classes. I think this can be done in a minute, or even, you know, perhaps some people very quickly can do this in half a minute, 30 seconds. But I'm going to be very generous and give 3 minutes. Why 3 minutes? Well, there are 3 choices, okay, for the answer. I should actually give you 4 minutes, but I really don't mind here. As long as you feel that I've given you enough time to do this exercise. So, right. Oh, I'm so sorry here. There was a typo. I should have typed, please read the thesis statement. So I forgot to put read here. I don't know if I can put that now, if I can type it in. But anyway, please excuse that typo. I must have written that very quickly. Please read the thesis statement below and choose the sentence that best supports the thesis statement or thesis sentence. Remember, a statement is a sentence that is not a question. If it is a question, it is not a statement. You're asking for information. You're asking for something to be answered. Okay, so that supports the thesis. Choose the sentence that best supports the thesis statement or thesis sentence from the statements numbered 1 to 3. So we will choose from 1 to 3, and the thesis statement: the fashion industry has a negative influence on people's body image and can cause serious issues such as depression and eating disorders. Why depression? Well, because maybe they are trying to succeed to look like the models in the fashion industry, and they're not succeeding, and they become very sad to the point of depression, right? And why eating disorders? Well, they want to look so much like these people in the fashion industry, these models, and they are not eating well. You know, they're on a fruit and vegetable diet. They're not eating carbohydrates. They're not eating meat, for example. Okay, so that's an eating disorder, because everyone knows that one should have a balanced meal with carbohydrates, meat, and vegetables. Of course, we can skip the carbohydrates once in a while. I don't suggest we skip them all the time, but certainly dairy and fruit and vegetables and meat, certainly a part of a balanced diet. There are vegans who don't agree, of course, with this, but there should be a balance between protein and fat, of course, because, you know, a lot of people say, you know, there's no use for fat in diets. Well, that's not true. A lot of times fat with the protein combined leads to a balanced diet and a proper immune system. By the way, that could be a thesis statement, and that could be part of an argumentative essay. Should people eat from the 4 main food groups, or should they just eat protein? Right? That could be an argumentative essay, and then you can write a supporting sentence and another supporting sentence, and of course examples from you know, life itself. For example, people in the fashion industry, there are famous people, and you could do research online and see what people who just eat protein, how they feel. Are they in good health? That could be an example. That, you know, that's something you can research and give an example. Or you probably have met people in that industry, and you can give your opinion or give their opinion of how they feel, as long as it supports your position that people should eat from the 4 food groups. And I believe the 4 food groups is the carbohydrates, the protein, fruit, and vegetables. The protein being the meat and fish, of course. I think dairy is in there as well. And fruit and vegetables are part of the same group. So the carbohydrates, bread, of course, rice, grains. Okay, I think it's actually 4 food groups. But anyway, I think you get what I'm trying to say about that. Okay. Okay, so we'll go to the, I think I've given us sufficient time, so we'll check what people think. What is the best supporting sentence to this thesis sentence? You can send your answers to the chat box. I believe there is a chat box here. Okay. Honestly, I don't see any comments on what is the best answer for that exercise. Perhaps I'm not clicking on the right button. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, what do you think is the best, since I've given ample time here, to consider the best supporting sentence to the thesis sentence? You are welcome to speak your answer. I don't know if, you know, I don't know if anybody has written down in the chat box. I really can't find any comments there, unless I'm not looking in the right place.
Excuse me, Mr. Joseph, you can just click on chat.
Right.
Yes, and then the chat will pop up.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Dr. Bassem. All right, so most people have chosen number 2. Okay. You know, I don't know if you do this with your students, but I often tell my students, you know, what's more important than getting the correct answer? I mean, okay. You can get the correct answer, but the most important thing is if you tell me why you chose that answer. I think that's a lot more important than the correct answer itself, because when you tell me why you've chosen that answer, you can actually find the answer to a lot of other questions because you have a structure, right? Okay, so for example, people, most people in the chat box have chosen supporting sentence number 2. The fashion industry's unrealistic image of the human body can cause young people to become depressed about how they look. Right. Now, if I can ask you, please, kindly ask you, if you don't mind, I don't mean to give you extra work, okay, or to make this exercise difficult, because it's I think a very easy exercise. But I will just ask you for details. Why have most of you chosen number 2? And maybe some people have different reasons for choosing number 2. But if you don't mind, just give me the reason, because as I said, often the reason is a lot more important than the actual answer. Because once you give a reason, you have a logical structure and thinking process as to answer all questions, right? And I think, and by the way, this is another thing that in our AWC headquarters, or whatever you want to call it, we call it the center, the Academic Writing Center, that Dr. Basim and Ibrahim Madini and Kamal Shanaway, sorry, forgive me, Kamal, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. These are things that we often discuss. You know, for example, the main, which can also be an argumentative essay, teach me to fish. Don't give me the fish, but teach me to fish. So when I often review exercises with colleagues, or we're discussing answers, even especially with students, I don't just give them the correct answer. That would be giving them the fish, right? What I want to do is teach them to fish. So teach them a thinking process, teaching them a thinking structure, so that they can get the fish themselves and they don't need me anymore. You see, it's a question of counseling to the point where they develop and start thinking about the answer by themselves, instead of being given or spoon-fed the answers. So again, if you don't mind, can I just have a few participants or attendees telling me why they have chosen? Oh, okay, right. Again, let me see. They're right. Right. Okay. I'm sure that this colleague is from the women's campus, and again, a very effective answer from Maria, or Mariah, sorry. Number 2 is related to the thesis statement. The other ones are not related. Actually, excellent. You are right. Number 1 and 3 really are superfluous. Superfluous, I mean excessive. They have nothing to do with people's body image as related to the thesis statement. I think that's an excellent point that Mariah made. And Salim, again, thank you. Yes, Salim is basically giving extra details, which both Mariah and Salim agree upon, is the same idea that 1 and 3 are not related to the main thesis. Right. Number 1, rates of depression are especially high among young adults. Oh, there's another typo there. Please forgive me about that one. I'm going to be making a change on that. Between, that should be an N. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you're not a good typist, and when you're, I guess, when you're typing quickly. Number 1 talks about just one word, thesis statement. Encompass or talks about the other words or the main idea of the thesis statement. So number 1, of course, would be struck down as a supporting sentence. Struck down, of course, I mean that we have to eliminate it. It would not be logical if you were to use that in an essay, obviously. Number 2, obviously, it encompasses the essence and basic idea of the thesis statement. Right. Number 3, it is not, just like number 1, should be struck down and eliminated. Pressure from parents to do well in school or get a job can also cause young people to become depressed. Okay. Again, number 1 and number 3 talks about depression. That's only one word in the thesis statement. It doesn't encompass the very essence or main point of the thesis statement. Okay. Yeah, listen, colleagues, I'm so sorry if I'm over-explaining this. You obviously know and did very well in the exercise. I'm sorry, but I just feel that perhaps it bears repeating onto why we chose the answer, number 2. And again, it goes back to the idea that we discussed at the AWC Center. Teach me to fish, don't give me the fish, right? Teach me how you got that answer. Give me the thinking process behind it. Therefore, I'll be able to do it by myself for any other questions in the future. And that's what I establish when I teach online. Even though it's very difficult to make it student-centered, we try our best. We divide the class into breakout groups. And in class, of course, a little bit easier because you divide your class into groups and you ask them to go fishing. You don't give them the fish. They go fishing and they try to find the answer. After you have coached them or guided them, they will do the legwork or the busy work behind it, okay? Right. Now, getting back to the essay itself, once the introductory paragraph has been written, the author will proceed with writing 3 body paragraphs. The body paragraphs, of course, will support your thesis, and 1 will support an opposing view. You know what? I really don't agree with that approach. That is the approach that I have researched with the British Council. And to be honest with you, I do not want to contradict myself. If I do in a paragraph write an opposing view, I will certainly show in that paragraph how I discredit the opposing view. So I will say, okay, the opposite view of what I'm saying is this, but I think it's not a good angle, not a good approach because, and then I would give a series of supporting sentences to show, and obviously examples to show that it is not a good view, the one that opposes mine. Remember, you are trying to convince the reader, as you already know, that your position, you're trying to convince the reader that your position is the correct angle, the correct position, the most agreeable, the most logical position, of course. All right, the paragraph that presents the side that opposes the author's thesis will be clearly discredited. Well, you see, there's a typo there. Sorry. Will clearly not be, will eliminate B, will clearly discredit in a logical manner as to convince the reader that the writer's approach is more viable and reasonable. Okay, sorry about the B. The B should not be there. That's a typo, sorry. Here are some supporting ideas regarding thesis statement about fashion industry that might be included in the body paragraphs in order to develop them further. So the thesis statement, the fashion industry is harmful to society and the environment. Why? Well, let's look at the second part, which is easier to explain, I think. Harmful to the environment. We don't want to waste things, right? We want things to be reusable. Now, can clothes be reusable? Yes. But often in the fashion industry, when things or certain types of clothes go out of style, they are thrown in the garbage because no one wants to wear things that are outdated. So that's why we're saying that it might be harmful to the environment, because it causes waste, right? You have a lot of fabric and material that is put in the garbage. Right. And is it harmful to society? Well, we've explained that before, how especially children are easily convinced that they should start dressing just like the models in commercials. And it is harmful because, first of all, they often will not look like the models in the commercials and try hard to do so, and become depressed and again develop eating disorders as to be as thin as the models in those commercials, right? All right, this is another exercise, ladies and gentlemen, very easy. I apologize if these exercises are too easy. I wanted to make them as simple as possible to prove my point. And prove it logically. Please choose which sentences below can be used as supporting sentences for the thesis statement mentioned above. Okay, so we have a different thesis statement than the one I presented before. The fashion industry has a negative influence on people's body image, etc. This is another thesis statement, ladies and gentlemen. This statement is that the industry is harmful to society because it tries to change people's attitude, and when they don't succeed in dressing or looking like the models in commercials, they become very depressed. Also, it harms the environment because once clothes are out of date, people throw them away. They don't, you know, can they give them to people in need? Well, the people in need may not want them, quite frankly. You know, I have actually been in a situation where someone who was in a difficult financial situation said to me, "Why did you give me these pants? These pants are out of style." And I was very surprised, because if I were in a situation like that where I needed clothes, I would not argue whether the pants or clothes are unfashionable or not. I would be grateful of receiving the clothes. Unless, of course, they're torn clothes, I would understand. But the pants were quite in good condition. They were clean. I had washed them before I gave them to that person. So I felt a little bit hurt that the person was not grateful. But he told me, you know, these pants are out of style. Why are you giving me these pants? I don't want them, you know. And again, I'll make it clear that that person was in a desperate financial situation. So I don't know why the person was not grateful that I gave him the pants. And you know, there was nothing wrong with the pants, except that perhaps they were not up to date with modern fashion. And again, is it important to follow modern fashion up to date? You know, the latest styles. Is that important? That could be a thesis argumentative essay, actually. That could be a thesis in an argumentative essay. Right. Okay, again, while I was talking, I'm sure I gave ample time for you to choose which sentences below can be used as supporting sentences for the thesis statement. The fashion industry is harmful How is it harmful? It changes the way people think, and it harms the environment because no one wants the clothes, right? Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, people are saying that number 3 is the best answer because it stated a harmful situation, unlike 1 and 4. Beneficial outcome contradicting the thesis. 2 is kind of off the topic. Okay, well, that's one answer. Anybody else? Please. Okay, I see a lot of answers, but how about maybe one sentence explanation as to why you have chosen that answer? Number 3, people have chosen, the majority of people have chosen number 3. It pressures young adults to look like models in commercials. Right. And of course, that leads to them being very sad. That leads to their altering the way they think, the way they eat also. As we mentioned earlier, causes eating disorders. Number 1, the fashion industry creates new jobs. Obviously, that is an opposing view, so it will not support the thesis statement that is harmful. It pays overseas workers low wages. You know, some people said that it might be off the topic, but it is harmful in a way if you look at it in a very global fashion. If you're not looking at it globally, then I would understand why sentence number 2 would be off the topic. But sentence number 2 can be very much pertinent and related to the thesis statement. If you look at it globally, if people find out that children, for example, they're using child labor to create shoes, you know, I'm not going to name any brands right now. I'd rather not. I don't want to cause any arguments. Or certain brand jeans, well, then it is harmful to society because people will be very, very saddened by the fact that some clothing or footwear is being created by child labor, and those children should be in school, right? So number 2, if you look at it globally, can be pertinent or can be selected as perhaps to a lesser degree a supporting sentence. But I agree that number 3 would be the best supporting sentence. Number 4, it brings investment to developing countries. Obviously, that is contradictory. That's a positive statement, and what you want to do is create a negative statement to support your thesis statement. So obviously, number 4 should be struck down, as number 1 should be struck down. Okay. Because they are both leaning towards the positive side of the fashion industry, and that's not what you want. You want to continue and put forth a statement that supports your own thesis or main idea, thesis statement. Okay, now back to the structure again, and I'm going to read this very quickly because you already know, and I think it's quite logical. I think we've explained and alluded to this at the beginning. Once the body paragraphs have been written, the author can now proceed with the concluding paragraph. The concluding paragraph should lead the reader towards thinking in a similar way that the author is thinking. So when you write, you obviously want the reader to adopt your idea. I mean, not completely, because human beings are so different. They're not going to agree at 100%, but it would be nice if they agree, let's say 90% or 80% of what you're saying. In other words, the concluding paragraph should convince the reader that the author's position is correct or viable or logical. Right. By doing the following things, how are we going to convince the reader that you are correct or that your position is correct? Well, summarize the main points you made in the introduction, actually, and the body paragraphs, because there are points that you have made in the introductory paragraphs as well. So not just the body paragraphs. But when you're repeating these points and sentences, make sure you use different words so it doesn't sound monotonous. It doesn't sound boring. Of course, the idea is going to be the same, but you're using different words, so you're camouflaging or hiding exactly the same words you've used before. Okay, but of course, when the reader is reading, it is clear to the reader that the same words are being said, except in a different way, of course. You're changing the vocabulary. Hopefully, as I said before, the vocabulary you will use to convince the reader are a little bit better in the concluding paragraph, okay? What I mean by that is, let's say in the introductory paragraph and the body paragraphs, I said that uniforms, for example, should be worn in school. Well, in the concluding paragraph, you will write words like, instead of should, you will write stronger, more effective words such as, I think uniforms, for the reasons I explained in the introductory and body paragraphs, should be an obligation. So now I've used a stronger word. Instead of using should wear, they should be obligated to wear. They must wear. And repeat again the reasons why I think so. Okay? So reaffirming the main points that you have used in the earlier previous paragraphs, but using different words. Again, so it doesn't sound monotonous, boring. You want to make it, the concluding paragraph, to make it a little more interesting. Your final paragraph should be the one that you exit your essay. So when you exit, make sure you make a good exit. Make sure it's convincing. Of course, your introductory paragraph should be very convincing as well when you exit. When you enter by introducing your topic, but the concluding one as well. Also, you may want to ask the reader to take a stand with you. So one of your last sentences in the concluding paragraph could be, what do you think about what I am saying? Don't you think that my position is quite logical, for example? Don't you think that uniforms should be obligatory because of the statements that I've made, or the supporting statements that I've made, right? Okay. Okay. Well, you know, I was going to give a few more exercises about choosing between or among thesis statements, as we've done in the two other exercises. I do have some more to offer, but unfortunately we're out of time. So does anybody have any questions? I'll open up the floor to questions now. Any questions, please?
All right, thank you, Mr. Joseph, for this wonderful and informative workshop. And let's now open the floor for questions. And I'm going to share now the links for our YouTube channel and for the evaluation form. Please complete this form. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand, open your mic, or write it in the chat box. Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Bassem. By the way, Dr. Bassem, I have a question. The YouTube, as I clicked on for yesterday's workshop, that is supplementary information. Is that correct? Supplemental?
Sorry, I couldn't.
The YouTube channel, that is to provide us with supplemental information. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because the first one obviously is a form that I filled out yesterday for the previous workshop. But the YouTube, I noticed that it was extra information about the subject at hand.
No, the whole workshop will be uploaded to the YouTube channel, and inshallah in the coming weeks we will have short videos about certain aspects in academic writing.
Okay, so I assume that you've recorded this as well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you, because I think I made a slight mistake with the button and recorded it halfway through. So I'm glad that you recorded it from the beginning. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Bassem, some people are asking for the link again. Okay, I guess you sent it again. All right.
Yes. So, does anyone have any question about persuasive argumentative essays? If you have any questions, please raise your hand or just write it in the chat box.
Okay, I would like to thank the colleagues who are sending complimentary comments, remarks. Thank you very much. I'd like to mention all the people that are making these remarks, but there are just too many. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's very heartfelt. And once again, I would like to compliment our colleagues on the women's campus. One thing I knew, because we're not allowed to be on both campuses, but one thing I noticed about our team, it was very well run and very effective. But when I went to the symposium and the international conference at KU, I noticed that our colleagues at the women's campus presented very effective workshops, and I'd like to compliment them as well on how hard they prepared and the research that they've done, which obviously means that the leadership on the men's campus with Dr. Bassem and the leadership on the women's campus ultimately led to this, because I know that Dr. Bassem communicates with the women's campus as well. So I think it was important, bears repeating, to repeat that again. Okay. I think, Dr.
Since we don't have any questions, I think we need to finish. So
okay.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Joseph. So we are almost about to finish, and thank you, Mr. Joseph, for this wonderful presentation and this wonderful and informative workshop. And we'll have our Mr. Abdurrahman, could you please send an email to Mr. Joseph if you need this document, because people, Mr. Joseph, people are asking about this document, and could you write your email here so they can contact you? I'm trying.
Okay, would you like me to type the email right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, there it is.
All right, here is Mr. Joseph's email. So if you need this document, please send him email and he will respond. Okay, Ms. Mona.
Okay, I would like to thank our team, Dr. Bassem, of course, and Kamal Shanaway as well, and all our colleagues for giving me this opportunity to present this workshop. To be honest with you, I enjoyed this very much. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, thank you all. Thank you for attending our today's workshop, and we'll hope to see you on Wednesday, inshallah. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Bassem, do I just sign out, or how does it work?
Yes.
Because I don't know how to exit here.
Yes, you can just sign out.
Okay, thank you again, and have a good evening. Thanks.
You too.
And thanks to everybody. Thank you.